That's
No,
an
no,
AI
it's not
voice
right.
clone, the technician said after the third playback. No question.
What do we do now?
Noah Bell didn't answer. He sat beside the Steinway in the backup studio, one hand resting on the lacquered lid, his white cane balanced across his knees. No one had introduced him when he arrived. No one had asked his opinion. He was only there because the first piano tuner had canceled 2 hours before the press conference. The recording played again. A woman's voice filled the room. Young, wounded, unmistakable. Claire Whitman, Chief Executive Officer of Lyrian Sound, stood at the far end of the console with
17
3 lawyers
seconds.
around her and a face that
Right
had
there,
not slept
E.
in days.
That's the
By
part.
noon, she
No.
would have to explain why a dead singer's voice appeared in her company's newest song. Noah tilted his head. "Stop at 17 seconds," he said.
Your Honor,
The technician didn't move.
this evidence will
One of the
prove
lawyers
everything.
looked over. "Mr. Bell,
evidence is right
the
here in
piano is
front of
behind
us.
you."
Just
Noah
look at
rose
the pattern
slowly,
it left.
crossed to the left monitor, and placed 2 fingers against the speaker
I
cone.
hear it.
Then
The
the
voice
evidence
passed
is in
through
front of
again.
me. The room went
That
quiet.
recording was
Claire
not
looked at
made
him
in the
for the
main
first time.
studio.
Noah
I hear
listened
it.
as the
There's a
voice passed
specific
through the speaker
vibration,
one
like
more
a dead
time.
string on a
Then he
piano.
said, almost gently,
A dead
"This wasn't
string?
recorded in the main
That's
studio."
ridiculous.
The technician
But the
frowned.
piano,
"How would you know that?"
it wasn't
Noah's
in the
fingers
room
stayed on the
at
speaker.
all.
"There's the resonance of a dead piano string," he said. "And that
No.
piano isn't in this room." For 3
You
seconds,
think you can stop it?
no one moved. The backup studio had been noisy all morning. Phones vibrating on the console,
No, it's
lawyers
already
whispering
here.
near the glass, technicians dragging cables across the floor. But after Noah Bell spoke, the room fell into a silence that did not belong to power. It belonged to fear. Claire Whitman stared at him. On the wall monitor behind her, the paused audio file sat frozen at 17 seconds. The waveform looked harmless, a blue line swelling in the middle, with a thin tail of static at the end. Under it, the file name glowed in white letters. Mara, Final Bridge, version 3, approved. .wave, approved. That was the word that had trapped her. Mara Voss had been dead for 18 months. She had
I've
been
run the
more than Lyrian's
diagnostics.
biggest
Your
artist.
theory is wrong.
She was the voice
It's not
that
the
turned a
console,
struggling
it's not the
label
mic.
into a
I'm
company with
exhausted,
glass
but I'm
offices,
certain.
private
I told you, I
studios,
ran the
and a
voice print
catalog.
twice.
At
It's
Mara's
solid.
memorial,
No, I need
Claire
more
had
proof.
promised her
Look, it's
family that Lyrian
undeniable.
would never
Right
use
here.
her voice without clear
We've seen this
consent.
before.
Now Mara's voice had appeared in a new single scheduled to release at midnight. The internet had already decided the story. Lyrian had
match.
stolen a dead woman's
I'm
voice,
certain.
dressed greed in technology,
We have to
and
move
called
now.
it innovation. "No,"
Just give me a
the
second to
technician
process
said.
it.
His name was Eric, and
The
exhaustion had
data
made his face
confirms
hard.
it.
We
We
ran
can
the voice
embed
print
the
twice.
watermark
Dr.
deep
Blake
inside
confirmed the
the file
watermark.
structure,
The model signature is
making
there.
it
A
undetectable
watermark can
to
be
a
placed
standard
inside a file,
analysis.
Noah said.
Yeah,
Eric gave
right.
a tired laugh. "By who? Some imaginary villain in the vents?" Marlene
Mr.
Price,
E, your
Lyrian's chief
contract
counsel,
permits only
stepped
the
between
piano.
them.
This
"Mr. Bell,
evidence confirms
you were
Mr. A's
contracted to
prior
service the
claims.
Steinway.
This is my studio.
You are not authorized to
Not for
comment
this
on evidence in an
project.
active
The
litigation
agreement
matter."
is binding.
"Then don't call it
Do not
evidence yet,"
call it
Noah
evidence
said.
yet.
The sentence landed harder than it should have. Claire saw Marlene's jaw tighten. She saw Eric look to her for permission to dismiss him. Through the glass wall,
shouldn't have come
Victor
back.
Harlan stood in the hallway, phone at his
I know
ear,
things you don't.
calm as if the company were not burning behind
Not
him.
anymore.
Chairman of the board, keeper of the numbers. The man who had told her an hour ago that resignation could still be framed as responsibility. Claire
the
looked
file
back
again.
at Noah. His eyes were open, but
Be
unfocused.
careful, we can't afford a
His
mistake.
coat was damp from the rain. His toolbox sat
Raw
near the piano
playback.
bench,
Now.
scratched and
Just-
old, with
just
faded
tell
tape
me.
across the handle.
No
He looked
enhancement.
like
The
exactly
room
what they had
obeys.
called him. A replacement piano
Okay.
tuner. And yet he had heard
It's on.
something. "Play it again," Claire said.
He's
Marlene
here.
turned. "Claire." "Raw playback," Claire said. "No enhancement, no compression chain." Eric hesitated, then clicked the file back to the beginning. Mara's voice entered the room again. It sounded real.
And then you were gone.
That was the cruelest part.
Why
Claire
did you
knew
go?
Mara's breath before a note, the
Play it
small
again.
break she got when she leaned too close to the microphone. Noah stood with one hand on the
is
left
that?
monitor, touching the speaker as if it had a pulse. At the 15th second, his chin lowered. At the 17th, his fingers shifted. "There," he said. Eric stopped the playback. Noah shook his head.
Let
Let
the
it
sound
ring.
decay.
Eric
I'll play it
rolled his
again.
eyes,
Can
but
you raise
played
the
the
volume?
half-second again.
Already did.
Claire heard only
Still
the end
just
of Mara's phrase
hiss.
and a faint hiss. Noah
The
spoke
speaker
quietly.
handles the low frequencies
Below her breath,
with unparalleled
there's a sympathetic
precision.
vibration around it too.
The subtle
Not
resonance
a clean
you
note.
feel here,
A damaged
it's the
string
core of the
answering her voice.
experience.
The main
You see the
studio
new
Steinway
bass
was
strings?
restrung last winter. he continued.
Flawless.
I saw the maintenance card
the
when I came
soul
in.
of
New
the
bass
instrument?
strings, clean sustain. This resonance is
another
older,
story.
duller. It wobbles.
I never thought
Claire
I'd see
turned
you
to the
here.
piano behind him. The black Steinway looked perfect under the studio
We
lights.
both know why I'm
Polished,
I understand
expensive,
the offer,
obedient.
but I cannot
Noah said,
perform on that
"Not that one."
instrument.
Marlene folded her arms.
Why not?
How many pianos does this
It's the
building have?
standard.
6,
Yes.
Eric said.
There's
Then his
one-
voice
just
dropped.
one piano
5,
in storage.
active. 1 in storage. Claire heard the hesitation.
You hesitated.
What storage? Eric glanced
I
at the
can't.
floor.
Yes, there's
Studio
a door.
C.
It's behind the wall.
It's been
Show us.
closed since Mara's
Now.
last private sessions. The name moved through the room like a draft under a locked door. Studio C. A small room at the back of the archive level, built before Lyrian had money. Mara had loved it because it was imperfect. The ceiling was low. The air conditioner hummed. The old upright in the corner never stayed tuned. Claire had wanted to renovate it years ago. Mara had refused. "Leave one room human," she had said. Victor stepped into the
I
doorway
told you
then.
this wasn't the time.
Why are we discussing closed rooms
never
when
the
we have
time, is it?
47 minutes before the press statement? Noah did not turn toward him. Because the closed room is in the recording. Victor
I
looked at
understand this is
Claire.
difficult, but
This
it's
is
the
how
only
panic
path forward.
spreads.
You're
A
asking
contractor
me to break a
hears a
lot of
noise,
trust.
and
Consider the
suddenly we are
alternative.
rewriting the
It's not in your
company's
best
legal
interest.
position.
I'll think.
Claire hated
I
that he
have
sounded
the
reasonable.
data.
If Noah was wrong, she could still walk into the press conference,
We
suspend the
don't have
release,
much time.
promise an internal review, and survive until Friday. If Noah was right, then the scandal was
You
not an
know what
accident.
you need.
Marlene lowered her voice. Do not open archive access to an outside vendor. Noah removed his fingers from the speaker. I don't need archive access. Victor smiled faintly. Good. I need to hear the room, Noah said. The smile vanished. Claire looked at the frozen waveform. 17 seconds. A dead string. A room they had buried with a singer they still claimed to honor. She picked up her access card from the console. If you are wasting our last hour, Mr. Bell, she said, I will make sure you never work in this city again. Noah nodded once. And if I'm not? He asked. Claire opened the studio door. Then tell me why a dead woman's voice still remembers a locked room. The corridor outside the backup studio looked too clean for a company in crisis. White walls, gold records, framed magazine covers of artists smiling beside executives who were now calling Claire every 7 minutes, asking whether their masters were safe. Behind one glass panel, an assistant cried into her sleeve. Behind another, 2 publicists deleted scheduled posts from 3 accounts. Claire walked fast enough that Noah had to follow the rhythm of her heels. Marlene Price stayed close on Claire's left. Victor Harlan walked behind them, quiet now, but not absent. He had the kind of silence that still took up space. At the end of the corridor hung a 10-foot portrait of Mara Voss. Black dress, silver microphone, one hand lifted as if she were catching a note out of the air. Under the portrait, someone had placed fresh white lilies. Claire stopped under the photograph for half a second. Noah noticed it by the change in her breathing. You knew her well, he said. I signed her when no one wanted to build an album around a woman who refused to smile on command. That sounds like respect. It was business before it became respect. The honesty surprised him more than a softer answer would have. Mara had made Lyrian sound rich. Her first album rescued the company from debt. Her second turned it into an empire. By the time she died, 18 months earlier, Lyrian owned her masters, publishing shares, tour footage, interviews, unreleased demos, and a guarded vault of private sessions. That vault was why the world was angry. The new single, When Morning Leaves, had been announced as a tribute project. It was supposed to contain archival harmonies approved before Mara's death. Then a leaked 30-second clip appeared online at 3:14 that morning. By breakfast, fans had isolated Mara's voice. By 8, her brother had posted a video, accusing Lyrian of stealing from the dead. By 9, corpse music was trending. By 10, Lyrian's stock had fallen 19%. By 11, Victor had told Claire the board would ask for her resignation unless she took responsibility before the market closed. And by noon, she was expected to stand before cameras and say something that would either save the company or bury it with Mara. They reached a security door marked archive level, authorized personnel only. Claire tapped her card. The reader flashed red. She tried again. Red. Marlene looked at Victor. Victor's eyebrows lifted. Temporary compliance freeze. Legal recommended it after the leak. I'm legal, Marlene said. Board legal, Victor replied. Claire turned slowly. You froze my archive access? I froze everyone's, Victor said, to preserve chain of custody. Noah heard the phrase and tilted his head. Chain of custody was a beautiful phrase when used by honest people. It meant evidence had a memory. Every hand that touched a thing had to leave a name behind. But when dishonest people used it, it often meant only the right people were allowed to touch the truth. Claire held out her hand. Open it. Victor did not move. Claire, we have a verified AI voice print watermark, a public accusation from the Voss family, and a press conference in less than an hour. The responsible move is to suspend the release, apologize for process failure, and announce an independent review. That sounds like a resignation speech with better lighting. It sounds like survival. Noah stood near the wall, cane angled against his thigh. He could hear the locked reader's faint buzz, the air vent above the door, the tremor under Claire's control. What is the watermark? He asked. Eric, who had followed with a laptop under one arm, answered before anyone stopped him. Synthetic signature. Dr. Blake says the vocal layer contains a known AI generation marker, same architecture used in posthumous reconstruction models. Where in the file? Eric opened his mouth, then glanced at Marlene. Noah smiled faintly. If you don't know where the snake is, you shouldn't swear it bit you. Eric's face reddened. It's embedded in the upper harmonics. Evenly? No answer. Noah turned toward Claire. A real generative trace behaves like a process. It leaves a pattern through breath, consonants, transitions. If a watermark appears too cleanly in one layer, it may have been inserted after the vocal was already there. Victor gave a small laugh. Or it may mean you are improvising outside your trade. Then let me hear the raw file from the source drive, Noah said, not the export prepared for review. Marlene's answer was immediate. No. If he accesses the raw source as an outside contractor, we risk contaminating evidence. The evidence may already be contaminated, Noah said. That was the first time Claire looked afraid, because if he was right, this was not a mistake in an audio department. If the file had been altered after creation, then someone inside Lyrian had built a weapon out of Mara's voice. Victor stepped closer. Claire, your duty is not to chase a piano tuner's theory through locked rooms. Your duty is to keep 4,000 employees from losing their jobs because the public thinks you used a dead woman as software. Noah heard the shift. 4,000 employees, not shareholders, employees. Victor knew which word would hurt her. Claire's fingers tightened around her access card. What do you need, Mr. Bell? She asked. Noah turned toward the locked door. The untouched file. The room tone before the vocal starts. The last maintenance log for every piano in this building. The access record for Studio C. And 5 minutes in the room everyone keeps saying has nothing to do with this. Marlene exhaled sharply. That is not a request. That is a liability. No, Noah said. A liability is walking into a press conference with a lie because it came in a cleaner folder. Victor's phone buzzed. He held it up for Claire to see. Voss family to file emergency injunction against Lyrian Sound. Below it was a photo of Mara smiling from a stage she would never stand on again. Claire stared at the alert. Then she took Marlene's phone and dialed a number herself. This is Claire, she said. Override the freeze for archive level. My authorization. Full audit trail. Victor's voice hardened. You are making a mistake. Claire did not look at him. Maybe, she said. But if Mara's voice is being used to destroy this company, I want to know who taught it to lie. The archive door clicked open. The archive level smelled different from the rest of Lyrian. Upstairs, everything smelled like glass cleaner, espresso, and expensive panic. Down here, behind the locked door, the air carried dust, old carpet, magnetic tape, and the faint metallic warmth of machines that had not been fully shut off in years. Noah paused just past the threshold. Claire noticed. What? She asked. Nothing, he said. The building sounds older here. Eric almost laughed, then thought better of it. Rows of storage shelves stretched behind wire partitions. Hard drives sat in labeled fireproof cases. Tape reels filled climate-controlled cabinets. Along the far wall, a workstation glowed blue beside an analog console no one upstairs would have allowed in a press photo. A young woman stood there with a cardboard box in her hands. She froze when she saw them. Claire recognized her after a second. Lena Ortiz, archive assistant. 26, maybe 27. Quiet. Usually invisible unless someone needed an old session pulled in less than 10 minutes. The box in her arms had no printed label. Victor's voice sharpened. What are you doing down here? Lena's hands tightened around the cardboard. Catalog check. In the middle of a compliance freeze, I had an open pull request before the freeze went active. Marlene stepped closer. Put the box down. Lena obeyed, but her eyes moved once toward Noah. He caught it, not by sight, by breath. A small hold, a quick release, the sound of someone hoping a stranger had understood something without being told. Claire did not miss the look either. We will deal with that in a minute, she said. Eric, load the raw file. Eric sat at the workstation and connected the source drive. The screen asked for two-factor approval. Claire entered her code. Marlene entered hers. A warning appeared. Full audit trail enabled. Noah smiled faintly. Good. Let the room remember us. No one answered. The raw waveform opened on the monitor. Eric switched to spectrogram view. The blue and orange bands spread across the screen like a heat map of a ghost. Mara's voice turned into color. Eric leaned back. There, vocal layer, upper harmonic band. That's the watermark. Noah did not move toward the screen. Play from 12 seconds. No noise reduction. Eric clicked. Mara's voice filled the archive room, smaller through the workstation speakers than it had been in the studio. Still unmistakable. She sang one line, soft and low, almost not a performance. More like a confession she had not meant anyone to dress up later. Noah lifted one hand. Again, but mute the vocal center after the first word. Eric looked offended. That will leave artifacts. I'm not listening to her, Noah said. I'm listening to what she disturbed. Claire glanced at him. That sentence stayed with her. Eric isolated the channel. The voice thinned. The beauty disappeared, leaving breath, air, and a faint shiver beneath the note. Noah pointed toward the screen without touching it. There, under 200 hertz. Eric zoomed in. A thin vibration line trembled below Mara's phrase. That could be anything, Eric said. No, Noah said. Anything does not wobble in tune. He asked for the building's piano maintenance records. Eric opened a database reluctantly. 5 active pianos appeared. Main studio Steinway, backup studio Steinway, writing room Yamaha, live room C, 7, lounge upright. Noah listened as Eric read them aloud. Main studio Steinway, restaurant last winter. Backup studio Steinway, tuned this morning. Writing room Yamaha, service 3 weeks ago. Live room C7, no bass damage. Lounge upright. Stop, Noah said. What about studio C? Eric's eyes went to the bottom of the page. There's no active record. That was not the question. Eric scrolled. A hidden archived entry opened. Studio C upright. Service suspended. Last tuning, 22 months ago. Notes. Low A string unstable. Do not use for session recording. The archive room went still. Claire stared at the line. Low A. Noah turned his head slightly toward the workstation speakers. Play the raw file again. Eric played it. This time, no one spoke over the 17th second. The wounded note passed under Mara's voice, so small it seemed impossible that anyone had missed it and impossible to ignore once Noah had named it. Claire felt the first real crack in the story. Not relief. Something colder. If the unstable low A was in the raw file, then some part of that recording had passed through Studio C or through a piano that belonged to it. And if Studio C had been closed since Mara's last private sessions, then the company's official timeline was wrong. Victor stepped forward. A maintenance note does not prove origin. Noah nodded. Correct. Victor looked satisfied for half a breath. It proves your conclusion came too early, Noah said. Eric looked back at the spectrogram. This time, his anger had weakened. Curiosity had entered, and curiosity was dangerous to anyone protecting a lie. Noah asked for headphones. Eric gave him a pair. Noah placed them over his ears and listened with his eyes lowered. He asked for the left monitor print, the right monitor print, then the raw stem without mastering. He tapped 2 fingers against the table, counting something no one else heard. At 21 seconds, he said, there is a click. Eric zoomed forward. Mouth noise. No. Too square. Edit point? No decay. He asked Eric to isolate the click. The room heard it then. A dry tick, almost polite, buried beneath Mara's breath. Lena spoke for the first time. Metronome. Everyone turned toward her. She swallowed. Studio C had an old wooden metronome on the upright. Mara used it when she recorded alone. She hated digital click tracks. Victor's eyes narrowed. You seem to remember a great deal. Lena looked down. It was my job. Noah removed the headphones. The click is not locked to the session tempo. It bleeds from the room. Same with the HVAC cycle under the vocal. If this were generated clean by AI, why would it carry a room's bad habits? No one answered. Claire stepped closer to the screen. Could someone have added those sounds after? Yes, Noah said. But then they would have had to know which broken piano, which old metronome, which air conditioner cycle, and how Mara's voice excited that room at that exact pitch. Eric whispered, "That's not how the report reads." Noah turned toward him. Then the report read the wrong file. Marlene closed her eyes briefly. Victor said, "This is speculation layered on theater." Noah pointed toward the spectrogram. "No. Theater is a dead singer's voice with a watermark placed where frightened people will stop looking. This is residue." The word changed the room. Residue. Not proof enough for court. Not yet. But enough to turn a press conference into a trap if they walked in blind. Claire looked at Lena's unlabeled box. "What's in there?" Lena's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Victor answered for her. "Irrelevant archive materials." Noah tilted his head. The cardboard had shifted when Lena set it down. Something inside had clicked against plastic, not paper. A hard drive case, maybe two. Claire walked to the box and lifted the top flap. Inside lay 3 gray drives, each wrapped in anti-static sleeves. No printed labels. Only white tape. Handwritten in black marker. MV Private. Studio C. Safety copy. Do not ingest to main server. Claire looked at Lena. The young woman's eyes filled, but she did not cry. "I didn't steal them," Lena said. "I hid them because someone was deleting her." Lena Ortiz stood beside the open box, as if the 3 gray drives had become too heavy for the room to hold. Victor pointed at them. "No one touches those." Claire did not step back. "A minute ago, you called them irrelevant archive materials. I called them that before a contractor started turning panic into a theory." Noah lowered his eyes. Contractor. Vendor. Piano tuner. Different words. Same door. Marlene's phone rang before Claire could answer. She listened, then covered the receiver with one hand. "The Voss family filed the injunction," she said. "They want the release blocked and all posthumous assets frozen." Victor spread his hands. "Then we stop this now. Suspend the single. Isolate the breach. Give the court a clean chain of custody." "A clean chain," Noah said quietly. "Or a convenient one." Victor turned. "You are very confident for a man with no standing in this company." Noah's hand tightened around his cane. For the first time that morning, his face changed. Not anger, recognition. Claire saw it. "What happened to you?" she asked. Marlene gave her a sharp look, but Claire did not withdraw the question. Noah was silent for a moment. The archive machines hummed around him, soft and uneven, like old lungs. "I used to work in forensic audio," he said. Eric blinked. "You?" Noah almost smiled. That is usually the second insult. He had spent years listening to things other people wanted, simplified, consent tapes, threatening calls, boardroom recordings, edited interviews. His eyesight had never been reliable. Faces blurred when light hit them wrong. Fine text dissolved when he was tired. But sound stayed precise. A room had edges. A microphone had habits. A lie often left a seam. Then came the Julian Rowe case. Claire knew the name. Everyone in music did. Julian Rowe had been a beloved songwriter until a leaked consent tape made him look like a fraud trying to escape his contract. The public turned before the court did. "I reviewed the tape," Noah said. "I found an edit. Not enough to prove the whole consent was fake, but enough to demand the original recorder." "What happened?" Claire asked. "The label's attorneys quoted the useful half of my report and buried the rest. They used my name to say the tape was clean." His voice stayed level. "That made it worse. By the time I corrected it, Julian had settled. His reputation was gone. Mine followed. The panel said I overreached. The press said I changed my story. People remember the first headline. They rarely remember the repair." No one spoke. Even Eric looked away from the screen. Noah touched the lid of his old toolbox with his thumb. Inside, under felt wedges and tuning mutes, lay a folded repair invoice from 10 years earlier. The ink had faded, but he had never thrown it away. He did not show it to Claire. Not yet. The memory came anyway. A train station in winter rain. A public piano near the east stairwell. 3 cracked keys. A cardboard sign on the bench. Need $280 to repair the piano. Noah had been 27, disgraced, half-blind, and nearly broke. The station manager had warned him the piano would be removed if it could no longer hold tune. All day, people passed. A few dropped coins. Most looked embarrassed by his need. Then a woman in a navy coat stopped. She did not ask him to play. She did not ask for his story. She read the sign, looked at the broken keys, and placed an envelope on the bench. When Noah opened it later, there were $300 inside. No name, no business card. Only one sentence written on the flap: "Don't let it go silent." The piano stayed in the station for 4 more years. That sentence stayed longer. In the archive, Claire watched Noah return from wherever the silence had taken him. "Why did you come today?" she asked. "I was called because another tuner canceled." "That is not the answer." Noah turned toward the box of drives. "I came because someone is doing to Mara what they did to Julian. Cutting a voice apart, keeping the useful pieces, and trusting the public to finish the punishment." Claire absorbed that without defending herself. That mattered. Victor broke in. "Touching. Still not evidence." "No," Noah said, "but it tells us what evidence they would fear." He pointed to the tape on the first drive. "MV Private, Studio C. Safety copy. Do not ingest to main server." Lena finally spoke. Mara didn't trust the main archive for unfinished work. She said the system forgot anything that made executives nervous. Claire's face tightened. Noah opened his toolbox and took out a dull silver tuning fork. He struck it gently against the table. The note rang thin and clean through the archive. He listened until it nearly disappeared. "Then we start with what Mara trusted," he said, "not what the company filed." Claire looked toward the dark hallway, leading deeper into the archive level. "Studio C," she said. Noah nodded. "And this time," he said, "we listen before anyone explains." Studio C had not been opened for months, but it did not feel abandoned. It felt waiting. The room sat behind 2 archive doors and a narrow soundproof hallway lined with old foam panels. Unlike the polished studios upstairs, Studio C had no glass wall facing a control room, no velvet couch, no framed awards, just a low ceiling, a worn Persian rug, a small analog console, and an upright piano in the corner under a gray dust cover. Claire stopped at the threshold. Mara had once called this room ugly. Then she had recorded half her best album inside it. Noah stood just inside the door and lifted one hand slightly. "Don't turn on the overheads yet," he said. Eric paused with his fingers near the switch. "Why?" "Old rooms speak differently before people wake them up." Victor exhaled through his nose. "Poetry now." Noah ignored him. He tapped his cane once against the wooden floor, then listened to the return. The sound came back short and soft. Low ceiling. Thick rug. Heavy wood in the corner. He moved toward the upright piano. The dust cover slid off with a dry whisper. The instrument beneath it was not beautiful. Its walnut finish had faded near the lid. One leg carried a repair brace. A strip of paper tape clung to the inside edge, yellowed with age. Eric leaned closer and read it. "Studio C. Upright. Do not use for session recording. Low. A. Unstable." Claire looked at Noah. He did not look victorious. He looked worried. "Play the file," he said. Eric opened the raw clip on his laptop and let Mara's voice fill the small room. "Here." It sounded different. Less like evidence. More like a person standing where she had once stood. At 17 seconds, the upright answered. Not loudly. Not musically. A faint, wounded vibration rose from inside the piano, then died before the next breath. Lena covered her mouth. "That's it," Eric whispered. Noah knelt beside the piano and opened the lower panel. His fingers moved carefully over the bass strings, stopping at one thick copper-wound string near the left. "Low A," he said. Eric stared at the laptop. "The frequency line matches." "Not just frequency," Noah said. "The wobble. A clean note can be copied. Damage is harder. Damage has a shape." Claire stepped closer to the piano. "So Mara's vocal passed through this room. Or someone wanted us to think it did," Marlene said. Noah nodded. "That is the right objection." Victor's expression sharpened, as if he had not expected agreement. Noah stood and pointed to the analog console. "That is why we need the room's habits." They began with the simple things. Eric recorded 30 seconds of silence inside Studio C. Noah asked everyone to step into the hallway while he captured the room tone. The air conditioner came alive 6 seconds into the take, humming in 2 uneven waves before fading down. Lena found the old wooden metronome on top of a shelf, its brass weight still set crookedly near 68 beats per minute. Noah asked Eric to start it once. Tick. The sound was dry, square, and unmistakable. Eric placed the new recording beside the raw Mara clip. The room tone lined up. The HVAC cycle dipped in the same place. The metronome click did not match the song tempo, but it matched the tiny bleed hidden under her breath. Claire felt the facts forming a shape she did not yet want to name. Who recorded her here? She asked. Lena opened a drawer beneath the console and pulled out a stained session notebook. Mara sometimes logged private takes by hand. She didn't like every idea going through the main server. The last filled page had Mara's initials in black marker. MV. Private final take. Project, morning. Engineer, self. Do not ingest without consent attachment. The line below had been torn away. Not cut cleanly. Torn. Claire touched the missing edge with one finger. Where would the consent attachment be? In the legal archive, Lena said. Or linked in metadata if someone ingested it properly. Eric checked the raw file again. He found the field after 3 tries. Consent reference. MV consent 914A. Then the field ended. No document path. No witness ID. No signature hash. Just a reference to something that should have existed and did not. Marlene's face went pale. If that consent exists and was removed, this becomes a criminal issue. If it doesn't exist, Victor said, then Claire still released a dead artist's vocal without permission. Claire turned on him. I did not release it. Someone leaked it before release. Public distinction, Victor said, not legal comfort. Noah moved away from the piano and toward the small control desk. Who accessed Studio C recently? Eric pulled the access badge log on his laptop. Studio C had no activity for weeks. Then, 3 entries appeared from 2 nights before the leak. 2:11 in the morning, archive temp access. 2:14 in the morning, Studio C door open. 2:39 in the morning, Studio C door closed. The name field showed only a system credential. Board compliance override. Marlene looked at Victor. Victor did not blink. The board ordered a preservation check after we were warned of a possible leak. Claire's voice sharpened. Who performed it? I would need to check. You are the chairman of the board. And I do not personally open studio doors at 2 in the morning. Noah listened to him answer. Not the words. The timing. Victor responded too quickly to the accusation, but too slowly to the detail. Board compliance override. A credential broad enough to hide a person, and official enough to scare everyone else away. Lena spoke softly. There's another log. Victor turned toward her. She flinched, but continued. The ingest queue. If someone tried to move Mara's take into the main server, there should be a failed import record. Eric opened the ingest history. Most entries were routine. Stems, mixes, podcast masters, catalog scans. Then he found it. MV private final take. Ingest attempt failed. Reason, consent attachment missing. User, V Harlan admin. The room seemed smaller. Claire read the username once. Then again. Victor looked at the screen, and for the first time that day, his calm became effort. That account is administrative, he said. Several departments have routed permissions through it. Marlene's voice was flat. That is not how privileged access is supposed to work. Noah looked toward Claire. She was not relieved. She was angrier than that. Relief would have meant the problem was outside her house. This was inside the walls. Victor stepped toward the door. Before anyone makes a reckless accusation, remember what we have. A damaged piano, a torn notebook, a failed ingest. None of it proves I altered a recording. No, Noah said. Victor stopped. Noah touched the side of the upright piano, feeling the old wood under his fingertips. It proves Mara tried to leave a final take with conditions attached, he said, and someone tried to move the voice without the condition. Claire looked at the torn notebook page. What condition? Lena swallowed. Mara didn't just record songs in here, she said. Sometimes she recorded messages. Noah turned toward the piano. The low A string sat still now, silent inside its frame. But Claire could feel it. Something in this room had not finished speaking. Victor did not attack immediately. That made it worse. He stood in Studio C, looking at the old upright piano, the torn session notebook, and the ingest record on Eric's laptop, as if each object were a minor inconvenience. Not danger, not guilt, just clutter on a conference table. Claire knew that look. It was the expression Victor used when he had already decided which version of reality would survive. "Everyone out," he said. No one moved. Victor turned to Claire. "This room is now part of an active legal matter. The archive assistant is suspended pending review. The technician will preserve the workstation. Mr. Bell will leave the premises." Noah did not react. Lena did. Her face went white. "Suspended? You removed company materials during a compliance freeze," Victor said. "You should be grateful I am using the word suspended." Claire stepped between them. "You do not suspend my staff without my approval. The board does, when evidence handling is compromised. There would be no evidence left if she hadn't protected it." Victor's gaze shifted to Noah. "Protected. Interesting word for hiding drives in an unmarked box after a leak that nearly destroyed this company." "That leak didn't come from her," Noah said. Victor smiled. "And now the piano tuner is clearing suspects." There it was. Not a shout, not an accusation. A label. Eric looked down. Marlene's lips tightened. Even Claire felt the room's balance tilt. Victor did not need to prove Noah wrong yet. He only needed everyone to remember Noah did not belong. "A man was hired this morning to tune an instrument," Victor continued. "He has since demanded access to restricted archives, influenced an emotional employee, touched possible evidence, and built a theory no certified investigator has reviewed." Noah folded his hands over the top of his cane. "You forgot that I was right about Studio C. You were lucky about a sound. Luck does not identify a damaged lowest string. Neither does it give you standing." Claire turned sharply. "Enough." Victor looked almost pleased. "No, Claire. This is exactly the point. You are hours away from facing cameras, a court filing, and a board vote. Are you really going to put Lyrian's future in the hands of a contractor, with no badge, no appointment, and no accountability to anyone in this building?" Noah answered before Claire could. "He is right about one thing." That surprised Victor. Noah went on. "I have no accountability to this building. That is why I can hear what it is trying not to say." For one breath, the line landed. Then Victor's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and something cold settled into his face. "I was hoping not to do this here," he said. Claire's eyes narrowed. "Do what?" Victor handed his phone to Marlene. She read the screen and stopped breathing for a second. Claire took it from her. A news alert had already gone live. "Disgraced audio witness consulting for Lyrian amid dead singer AI scandal." Below, it was Noah's face from years earlier, cropped from a courtroom hallway. Younger, thinner, blinded by flashbulbs. Eric whispered, "Oh, no." Noah did not ask to see it. He had already heard enough in their silence. Victor spoke gently now. That was his second weapon. "The Julian Rowe case. I assume you remember it." Claire looked at Noah. He said nothing. Victor turned to the room. "For those who do not, Mr. Bell once presented himself as a forensic audio expert in a consent dispute. His testimony shifted. A young artist's case collapsed. The panel questioned his method. His professional standing did not recover." "That is not what happened," Lena said. Victor looked at her like she had made a childish noise. "You read that in the 5 minutes since you met him?" Noah finally spoke. "My testimony did not shift. My report was cut. And yet the headline remains," Victor said. "Which is the only thing the public will hear before market close." Claire's phone began to vibrate. Then Marlene's. Then Eric's. The story was spreading. A second alert appeared from an industry account. "Lyrian Chief Executive Officer relies on former expert accused of misreading consent tape." Claire felt the trap close with professional neatness. Victor had not needed to disprove the low A string, the metronome, the HVAC cycle, or the missing consent reference. He only needed to poison the person who found them. Dr. Soren Blake appeared on the small wall monitor before anyone turned it on manually. Someone upstairs had patched the live interview into internal broadcast. Soren Blake sat in a studio with soft lighting and a silver tie, looking calm in the expensive way experts learn to look calm. "Pattern hearing is a real problem in disputed audio," he said to the interviewer, "especially when a listener has a personal history with failed forensic claims. Once someone expects manipulation, the brain can organize noise into meaning." Eric's mouth opened. "He's talking about Noah." "On screen," Dr. Blake continued. "A piano resonance in a complex vocal mix is not proof of recording origin. It is irresponsible to suggest otherwise without controlled analysis. Victor lowered the volume. You see? He said. This is bigger than a room full of anxious employees. If we let this continue, Claire will look desperate, Lena will look like a thief, and Mr. Bell will look exactly like what the internet is already calling him. Noah's face remained still, but his thumb moved once against the cane handle. Claire noticed. That was when she understood the cruelty of the attack. It was not only about credibility, it was designed to send Noah back into the same room that had broken him years ago. A room where he told the truth and watched other people edit it. Marlene stepped close to Claire. We have to contain this, now. Victor nodded. Suspend the release. Remove Mr. Bell from the building. Announce that Lyrian will cooperate with the injunction and retain Dr. Blake for independent review. Independent, Noah said. Victor smiled. Certified. Claire looked from Victor to the old piano. The low A string had gone silent. The torn notebook lay open. Lena stood beside the box of drives, trying not to cry. Noah stood alone in the middle of a room that had just been taught to doubt him. Claire had built her career by knowing when to cut losses. Everything in her training told her Noah had become a liability. But everything in the room said Victor had moved too fast. Noah, she said. He turned toward her voice. If I ask you to step back until we verify your claims, will the evidence survive without you? Victor's expression softened in victory. Noah did not answer quickly. Then he said, no. The answer was quiet. Certain. Why? Because whoever did this knows the system better than you do, he said. And now they know I heard the seam. Claire looked at the box again. 3 drives. 1 old piano. A missing consent attachment. A chairman who wanted the only listener removed. Her phone vibrated with another board message. Call emergency vote. Victor held out his hand. Claire. Make the responsible choice. She looked at Noah. For the first time, she did not ask him what he could prove. She asked, what would they erase next? Noah turned slightly toward the archive workstation. The thing that shows Mara knew exactly what she was leaving behind. Claire did not answer Noah in Studio C. She turned to Marlene and said, clear the room. Victor started to object, but Claire looked at him with the kind of stillness that made even board chairmen measure their next word. 5 minutes, she said. Victor's smile returned, but it had no warmth. 5 minutes will not change the market. No, Claire said. But it may change what I refuse to sign. He left last. The door closed behind him, and Studio C became small again. Just Claire, Noah, the old upright, the torn notebook, and a room that had held a dead woman's voice more honestly than the company built around it. Claire walked to the piano but did not touch it. I have 4,000 employees, she said. Noah waited. Assistants, engineers, marketing people, studio staff, people with children, mortgages, medical bills. If this company collapses because I handle this wrong, Victor will not be the only one punished. I know. No, Claire said, turning toward him. You know what it means to be used by a company. You do not know what it means to be responsible for one. The sentence struck harder than she meant it to. Noah's face closed. For a second, Claire saw the unfairness of it. Then she let it stand because part of her still believed it. She took a folder from Marlene's tablet case and placed it on the piano lid. NDA, she said. Consulting agreement. Emergency privilege structure. You stay, but privately. You report to me and Marlene only. No public statements. No contact with Lena outside counsel. No copies of files. We use your findings to negotiate a delay, get the court to slow down, and force an internal review. Noah did not pick up the folder. That saves the company, Claire said. Does it save Mara? Claire's jaw tightened. Mara is dead. The old room seemed to shrink around the words. Noah's voice stayed quiet. That is why everyone keeps trying to speak for her. Claire looked away first. Outside the door, muffled footsteps moved through the hall. Somewhere upstairs, cameras were being arranged for a press conference that might no longer happen. Phones were ringing. Statements were being rewritten. Money was moving because fear always moved faster than truth. Claire touched the folder with 2 fingers. If I go public with half-built evidence, she said, Victor's lawyers will call it desperation. Dr. Blake will tear you apart on television. The Voss family will say, I am hiding behind a man with a damaged reputation. The board will remove me before sunset. And if you handle it privately, I keep control. There it was. The cleanest answer she had given all day. Noah heard it too. You keep control, he said. Victor loses maybe. The release is suspended. A review is announced. Lena is still the archive assistant who hid drives. Mara is still the dead singer whose consent became negotiable. And the next time a catalog needs to be sold, someone will learn to hide the seam better. Claire's eyes flashed. You think I want that? I think you are afraid enough to accept something close to it. She stepped toward him. Do not confuse caution with cowardice. Do not confuse control with justice. The words landed between them like a hand slapped on wood. For the first time since they met, Claire looked not like a chief executive officer in crisis, but like a person cornered by the truth of her own instincts. She had built Lyrian by refusing to let men like Victor make decisions over her head. She had learned to protect artists by mastering contracts, budgets, release schedules, rights windows, and public narratives. Control had been survival. But Noah was asking whether survival had become the language of the people she hated. She lowered her voice. If I do this your way, I may lose the company. Noah touched the edge of the piano lid. If you do it Victor's way, you may keep a company that no longer deserves Mara's voice. Claire closed her eyes. That one hurt. Because Mara had trusted ugly rooms more than perfect systems. Because a torn page was sitting in front of her. Because a young archivist was about to be sacrificed for protecting what executives had misplaced. Because Noah Bell, a man she had almost thrown out as a liability, had spoken the one sentence no lawyer in the building would dare write. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Claire opened the folder, took out the NDA, and tore the top page in half. Noah did not look relieved. Do not mistake this, she said. I am not handing you my company. I am not asking for it. You will not leak. You will not grandstand. You will not take those drives out of this building. No, but we do not bury Lena. We do not let Dr. Blake define the file before the raw evidence is checked. And we do not let Victor sell me a clean story, because it is easier to defend. Noah nodded once. Then we need Mara's consent attachment. Where? Lena's voice came from the doorway. Both of them turned. She stood there with red eyes and a visitor badge still clipped to her sweater, as if she had returned before fear could talk her out of it. I know where she kept the messages, Lena said. Not the songs, the messages. Claire stared at her. You were told to leave. I know. Lena looked at Noah, then at the torn notebook. Mara had a private folder that never touched the main server. She called it Morning Room. It was supposed to open only if someone tried to release her voice without the attachment. Noah's grip tightened on his cane. Claire felt the choice sharpen again. Not company or scandal. Not control or chaos. Truth or permission. Show me, she said. Lena stepped into Studio C, and somewhere inside the old upright, the dead low A string trembled softly, as if the room had heard the decision before anyone else did. Lena led Claire and Noah into a storage office behind Studio C. The room was barely larger than a closet. Old road cases leaned against the wall. Broken microphone stands lay under a plastic sheet. In the corner, a small terminal sat on a metal desk, its screen dark, its keyboard yellowed with age. Mara called this Morning Room, Lena said. It was not a room. It was a local folder. She kept it away from the main server. Claire looked at the machine. Why? Because she was afraid unfinished work would become product. Noah heard Claire's breathing change. Lena connected one of the gray drives. The terminal woke slowly, lines of plain text crawling across the screen. Mara, private access. A password prompt appeared. Lena did not type. I don't know the password, she said. But Mara built a trigger. If anyone tried to ingest her final take without the consent attachment, Morning Room would create a safety duplicate. Eric leaned over her shoulder. A dead man's switch? Noah's voice was low. A dead voice switch. Lena opened the ingest queue and selected the failed entry under V. Harlan admin. A warning flashed. Source path unavailable. Safety duplicate pending. Then a progress bar appeared. Claire stepped closer. What is it copying? Not the song, Lena said. The path, metadata, consent reference, proof that something was attached before it disappeared. Noah turned his head toward the hallway. A relay clicked near the outer archive door. Someone's coming, he said. Lena's fingers froze. If we stop now, she whispered, we may lose it. The progress bar moved past 60%. Noah reached for the empty drive beside the keyboard. Mirror only the metadata map. Claire snapped. Noah. He stopped, but not for long. If they wipe the terminal, he said, you will need a map to prove the road existed. The bar hit 100. At that exact moment, the door opened. Victor entered with 2 security officers and Dr. Soren Blake behind him. Blake looked calm, polished, almost bored. Victor's eyes went straight to the drive in Noah's hand. Step away from the system, he said. Lena stood. He didn't start it. I did. Do not help him make this worse, Victor said. Claire turned. What is this? Victor held up his phone. On the screen was hallway footage. Noah entering the storage office. Noah placing a drive beside the keyboard. Noah holding it as the terminal ran. No sound. No Lena explaining morning room. No warning about the safety duplicate. Just Noah. Victor swiped to another screen. At 11:42, restricted archive metadata was copied from this terminal. At 11:43, an email was sent from a guest credential assigned to Mr. Bell, addressed to a Northbridge Capital domain. Claire's face changed. Northbridge was the investment group circling Lyrian's distressed catalog. Lena shook her head. That's impossible. Dr. Blake spoke gently. Metadata is easy to manipulate when someone wants to support a theory after the fact. Eric looked at him. You were not even here. I was observing remotely. Noah listened to that sentence. Not to the words. To Victor's silence after them. There was no surprise in it. Claire looked at Noah. Tell me the drive is empty. Noah held it out. It has the metadata map. The room tightened. You copied company evidence after I told you not to take files out of this building, Claire said. I did not take it out. That is not the point. No, Noah said. The point is someone knew exactly when to film me holding it. Victor stepped closer. Or a disgraced witness did what desperate men do when they need their theory to survive. The words were soft. They hurt more because of that. Noah felt the old case return around him. Julian Rowe. The cropped report. The first headline. The correction, no one remembered. Claire took the drive and handed it to Marlene. Seal it, Lena whispered. Claire, please. Claire did not look at her. Mr. Bell, she said, and the title made him flinch more than his name would have. You are no longer authorized to access Lyrian systems. Security will escort you out. Noah picked up his cane. At the doorway, he stopped. The email is wrong, he said. Claire remained still. If it came from this terminal, Noah said, there should be keystroke noise in the room recording. There wasn't any. For the first time, Victor's breathing changed. Noah heard it. Then security guided him into the hall. Behind him, the terminal blinked once. Source path saved. Then the screen went black. By the time Noah reached the lobby, Lyrian's crisis had changed shape again. It was no longer only about Mara Voss. It was about him. A wall screen above reception showed Dr. Soren Blake speaking live beside a headline that looked written for damage. Disgraced audio consultant, linked to catalog buyer. Noah stopped beneath it. Security stood on both sides of him, polite enough not to touch his arm, close enough to remind everyone he was being removed. On screen, Blake held up a printed spectrogram. The alleged piano resonance, he said, can be manufactured by layering room noise beneath a vocal. In my opinion, Mr. Bell appears to have created a narrative first, then searched for artifacts to support it. The host leaned forward. And the Northbridge email? Blake's face tightened with professional sadness. If accurate, it suggests a financial motive. Noah did not need to see the ticker below to understand the next blow. His phone vibrated. Lena had sent one line before her access vanished. They found a bank transfer. A second message followed. Shorter. Not mine. Not yours. Fake. Then her account went dead. Noah stepped outside into the rain. Behind him, Lyrian's glass doors closed with a soft click. For a moment, the whole city sounded distant. Taxis cutting through water, brakes sighing, a construction drill biting into concrete 2 blocks away, noise everywhere, meaning hidden inside it. His cane touched the curb. He could run to a lawyer. He could call a reporter. He could shout that the transfer was fake, that the email had no keystroke noise, that Victor had known where the camera would be. But he had lived through this kind of trap before. Facts spoken too early became opinions. Opinions became noise. Noise buried truth. He needed something harder than explanation. He needed an object that could answer. Noah opened his toolbox on the wet bench outside the building. Under the cloth roll, Beneath the old mutes, he found the folded repair invoice he had carried for 10 years. The paper was soft at the creases. East Terminal piano repair. Key bed reset. Low string replacement pending. Paid. $300 cash. Note: don't let it go silent. At the bottom was the repair shop stamp. Holloway and Sons Piano Service. Noah had not called them in years. He called now. An old man answered on the fourth ring. Holloway, this is Noah Bell. You repaired a station piano for me 10 years ago. A pause. The blind kid with the cracked Steinway upright? Not blind yet. Close enough. What did you break this time? Noah almost laughed. Do you still keep serial records? Paper ones. My son says that makes me a fossil. I need the serial number of the East Terminal piano. The old man went quiet. Noah, that piano was sold off years ago. I know. Why do you need it? Noah listened to rain strike the toolbox lid. Because I think it ended up inside Lyrian Sound. The silence on the line changed. Paper shifted. A drawer opened. Holloway muttered to himself, then read out a number. Noah repeated it once. His chest tightened. It matched the first 4 digits Lena had shown him on the Studio C maintenance record. Not enough, but close enough to move. Who bought it? Noah asked. Third-party refurbisher. Name was Mercer Stage Supply. They bought half a dozen old public pianos and resold them to studios. Do you have the transfer receipt? Somewhere. I need it. You in trouble? Noah looked back at Lyrian's tower. On the upper floors, people were deciding whether his name could be thrown away cleanly enough to save theirs. Yes, he said. Then come get it. Inside Lyrian, Claire sat in a conference room with Victor, Marlene, 2 board members on video, and a document already waiting for her signature. Northbridge Capital had made an emergency offer to purchase Lyrian's legacy catalog division. The price was low enough to be insulting and high enough to look like rescue. Victor slid the term sheet toward her. This protects the employees. Claire did not touch the pen. On another screen, the bank transfer appeared. $25,000 from a Northbridge subsidiary into an account under Noah Bell's name. Marlene studied it with a hard face. The routing number is real. Of course it is, Victor said. That is why this is so painful. Claire looked at him. Painful for whom? For the company you are still responsible for. Her phone buzzed. No caller ID. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Victor watched her hand. Claire answered. Noah's voice came through rain and traffic. Do not sign anything involving Northbridge. Her eyes moved to the term sheet. Victor's expression changed by half a degree. Claire turned away from the table. You are not supposed to contact me. I found the piano. For the first time that day, she forgot the room. What? The Studio C upright. It was the East Terminal piano, the one repaired 10 years ago. Holloway has the transfer receipt. The serial number will prove it. Claire closed her eyes. The piano from the station. The envelope. The sentence. Don't let it go silent. She still did not know why those words felt like they were reaching for her from another life. Noah continued. If that piano is the same one, the dead low A string was not planted today. It existed before Lyrian bought it. Before Mara recorded in Studio C. Before Victor's report. They can fake an email. They can fake a transfer. They cannot fake 10 years of repair records. Claire's grip tightened on the phone. Victor stood. End the call. Noah heard his voice through the line. Claire, Noah said. They are trying to make you sell the thing Mara was protecting. Victor reached for the phone. Claire stepped back. At the end of the conference table, the Northbridge term sheet waited. On the screen, Noah Bell's name sat beside a fake payment. In her hand, his voice was steady despite everything they had done to him. Claire looked at the pen. Then she put it down. No, she said. Victor froze. Claire lifted the phone back to her ear. Bring me the receipt. The emergency board meeting began 12 minutes late. By then, reporters had already filled the lower auditorium. Cameras lined the back wall. Shareholders logged in through secure video windows. Outside, fans of Mara Voss stood in the rain with signs that said, "Let her rest." On the stage, Victor Harlan looked calm. That was what frightened Claire most. He stood beside the podium with the Northbridge term sheet in a blue folder and Dr. Soren Blake seated behind him like a seal of credibility. 2 board members whispered near the side entrance. Marlene stood at Claire's shoulder, holding the sealed metadata drive Noah had been accused of stealing. Victor leaned toward Claire. Last chance. Announce the sale. Suspend the release. Step aside with dignity. Claire looked at the empty space beside the stage. Dignity, she said, is not the same as silence. The room lights dimmed. Victor walked to the podium first. Today, he began, Lyrian Sound faces a painful truth. Our systems failed. Our leadership failed. And while we cannot undo the harm caused to Mara Voss's family, we can take responsible action. A murmur moved through the auditorium. Claire watched the side door. Still empty. Victor opened the blue folder. The board has therefore prepared a restructuring plan, including the sale of certain legacy catalog assets to preserve jobs and restore public trust. That was when the side door opened. Noah Bell entered with rain on his coat and an old man beside him carrying a flat envelope wrapped in plastic. Security moved at once. Claire stepped to the microphone. Let him through. Victor turned. For half a second, his face showed something close to fear. Noah did not hurry. He crossed the stage with his cane in one hand and the repair invoice in the other. Behind him, two movers rolled in the old upright piano from Studio C. Reporters stood. Dr. Blake's expression hardened. Victor laughed once, short and sharp. Claire, this is absurd. No, Claire said. Absurd was asking me to sell Mara's catalog before hearing why her private take was altered. The room exploded with voices. Claire lifted one hand. You will hear it now. Eric connected the auditorium feed. On the main screen, the raw spectrogram appeared. Below it, a live microphone faced the upright piano. Noah stood beside the instrument and placed one hand on the lid. He spoke into the microphone. At 17 seconds in the leaked file, there is a resonance under Mara Voss's vocal. Dr. Blake called it manufactured room noise. Mr. Harlan called it speculation. Both claims depend on one assumption: that the resonance can be separated from the room that created it. He nodded to Eric. Mara's voice played through the auditorium speakers. Soft, wounded, human. At 17 seconds, the piano answered. A faint, low vibration rose from the old frame. On the screen, the live frequency line trembled beside the raw file line. They matched. Not perfectly clean, perfectly damaged. A sound moved through the crowd. Not applause, not shock, but recognition. Noah turned slightly toward Dr. Blake. A clean note can be sampled. Damage carries history. Dr. Blake stood. That proves only that the piano responds to the same frequency. Noah nodded. Correct. Victor's shoulders relaxed. Then Noah lifted the plastic envelope. This is the transfer receipt from Holloway & Sons Piano Service. It shows this piano was originally the East Terminal Public Upright, later sold through Mercer Stage Supply to Lyrian Sound. The serial number matches Studio C maintenance logs. The low A defect was recorded 10 years before today. Eric brought the serial record onto the screen. Claire stepped forward. Meaning no one created that defect today to support Noah's theory, Marlene added. And no one could have used it to frame Lyrian unless they knew Mara's private take passed through Studio C. Lena appeared from the side door, pale but standing straight. Victor's voice cut across the room. This woman is suspended for evidence misconduct. No, Claire said. She protected the archive from evidence destruction. Lena handed Marlene a printed access report. Her hands shook, but her voice did not. The safety duplicate from Morning Room preserved the source path. Mara's final take had a consent attachment, MV Consent 914A. It was removed before the file was ingested to the main server. The screen changed. Two timelines appeared. One was the raw Studio C file with consent reference intact. The other was the leaked review export with the AI watermark inserted after the vocal layer had already been processed. Marlene spoke clearly. The watermark was not native to the recording. It was added after the fact. Reporters shouted. Victor stepped toward the podium. That conclusion is premature. Claire turned to him. Then explain V. Harlan admin. The screen shifted again. Ingest attempt failed. Consent attachment missing. User, V. Harlan admin. Below it came the access log. Board compliance override. 2:11 in the morning. Studio C door opened. Victor's face lost color. My administrative account is shared for compliance purposes, he said. Marlene looked at him coldly. Then you violated privileged access policy before you allegedly preserved chain of custody. Noah lifted his head. And the email used to frame me, he said, was sent from a guest credential during a period when the morning room terminal recorded no keystroke noise, but the hallway camera shows one person entering the network closet 4 minutes earlier. Eric hesitated, then played the clip. Victor appeared on screen, not clearly enough to show panic, clearly enough to show his badge opening the network closet door. The auditorium went silent. Claire looked at Victor, and this time she did not look wounded. She looked awake. "You tried to sell the catalog to Northbridge after creating the scandal that lowered its value," she said. Victor said nothing. Noah added, "And you used Mara's voice to do it." That sentence did what no chart, log, or receipt could do. It made the crime understandable. A dead woman's voice had been turned into leverage. Victor reached for the podium, but Marlene had already signaled security. Dr. Blake sat frozen, his silver tie bright under the stage lights. Claire faced the cameras. "Lyrian will not sell Mara Voss's catalog today. We will not release the song today. And we will not call a dead artist's consent a technical detail." She turned toward Noah and Lena. "The two people this company tried hardest not to hear are the reason the truth survived long enough to be spoken." For the first time all day, Noah did not lower his eyes. Behind him, the old piano sat under the auditorium lights, ugly and scarred and undeniable. The low A string was silent now. It had already said enough. 3 weeks later, the auditorium looked different. No cameras pushing against the back wall. No shouting reporters. No emergency term sheets on the table. Only employees, artists, attorneys, and Mara Voss's family seated in the first row. Claire stood at the same podium where Victor Harlan had tried to sell the catalog. This time, there was no blue folder in front of her. There was only a single page. "The internal review is complete," she said. "Victor Harlan has been removed from all positions at Lyrian Sound. His actions have been referred to federal investigators. Dr. Soren Blake's report has been withdrawn pending professional review." She paused. Then she turned toward Lena. "Lena Ortiz is reinstated as Senior Archive Integrity Officer." Lena lowered her face quickly, but the room applauded before she could hide the tears. Claire waited until the sound faded. "And Noah Bell," she said, "will be recognized not as a contractor, not as a piano tuner who wandered into a legal matter, but as the forensic audio specialist whose work preserved Mara Voss's final truth." Noah sat near the aisle, one hand resting on his cane. For a moment, he did not move. Then Mara's brother stood. He crossed the front row, stopped in front of Noah, and offered his hand. "She hated perfect rooms," he said. Noah took his hand. "I heard that." It was the first time anyone from Mara's family thanked him. Not for saving a company. For listening to her. Scene 2. The return symbol. After the ceremony, Claire brought Noah to Studio C. The old upright piano stood where it had always stood, but the room had been cleaned without being polished. The torn foam panels remained. The Persian rug stayed. The metronome sat on the shelf, its brass weight still crooked. Claire had ordered only one change. The broken low A string had been removed and placed inside a narrow glass frame on the wall. Beneath it was a small brass plate, the string that answered. Noah stood in front of it for a long time. "I thought you would replace it," he said. "We did," Claire answered. "But I didn't want to throw away the part that told the truth." On the piano lid lay an old envelope, carefully flattened and preserved in a sleeve. Noah knew what it was before he touched it. The station repair invoice. Claire had found the handwriting on the flap after Holloway sent the receipt. "Don't let it go silent." Her voice softened. "I didn't remember your face. I barely saw yours. But you kept it." Noah smiled faintly. "Some people keep awards. I kept proof that a stranger paid attention." Claire looked at the piano. "I thought I was saving an instrument." "You were," Noah said. "You just didn't know what it would need to save later." Neither of them made it romantic. Not then. The room did not need that. It needed respect and silence and the strange grace of two lives crossing once as kindness and again as consequence. Claire touched the piano lid. "Mara's final take will not be released," she said. "Not as a product." Noah nodded. "What will happen to it?" "Her family chose to place it in the archive. Sealed. With her message attached." He listened to the room. For the first time, Studio C sounded less like evidence. More like rest. Scene 3. Legacy. 6 months later, Lyrian opened the morning room archive. Not a studio, not a product vault. A constant archive. Every unreleased vocal, demo, private message, and posthumous asset had to carry an independent chain of custody. No executive override could ingest a file without artist consent, family notice, and external review. The first training session was not led by a lawyer. It was led by Noah. He stood before a small class of interns, archive workers, and 3 students from a school for the visually impaired. On the table in front of him were headphones, tuning forks, and a small speaker playing room tone from Studio C. One student raised her hand. How do you hear what matters when everything is noisy? Noah thought of the backup studio, the lawyer's joke, Victor's polished lies, Lena's shaking hands, Claire's torn NDA, and a dead string answering a dead singer's voice. He placed one hand on the piano beside him. You don't start with the loudest sound, he said. You start with the one everyone thinks is too small to matter. Behind him, through the glass, Claire watched from the hallway. She did not interrupt. For once, the company listened first.